mechanism. Natural selection and mutations cannot evolve the other species to other species. And the third question was, are there any fossil evidence of evolution? So the fossils are the remnants of the living things which lived in the past, usually in a petrified form, skeletal fractures, sometimes the whole skeleton. So we can only know from the fossil evidence whether living things evolved or not, or there is a sudden creation. So we have to look at the fossil evidence. It is asserted, according to Darwinism, the living things evolved to living species evolved to other species by successive minute variations over billions of years. So then evolutionists have to show us these successive minute changes between species in the fossilized examples. They have to show us half fish, half reptile, half bird, pathological and asymmetrical transitions between species. And these imaginary forms are called transitional forms. And of course, if there are no transitional forms, means no evolution. Actually, let me go back first. And we have 300 million fossils today. All the more than 350 million fossils discovered to date belong to perfect life forms that have never changed in any way and thus have never evolved. Not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but 350 million fossils, more than enough. We have fossils all around the world. Wherever we dig, we come across fossils of the living things. But there is not even a single transitional forms. Species appear abruptly, complete, and perfectly formed. That means, of course, there is no evolution. Let me explain you on a sample what transitional forms means. This is a starfish. According to Darwinists, starfish evolved into a fish over 100 million year old period. So if Darwinism would be a fact, evolution would be a fact, we must have half fish, half starfish, 3/4 fish, 1/4 starfish, 90% fish, 10% starfish must have lived, and we must have the fossils of these. Although you see only 3 stages over here, there should be millions of these fossils in between them, if evolution be a fact. Now if you check the fossil evidence, the real fossils, these are real fossils that you see over here. Do we have starfish fossils? Yeah, millions of them. Do we have fish fossils? Yes, we have millions of them. Do we have any of these pathological, asymmetrical, so-called transitional forms? No, we do not have any of these, not even one. In fact, Mr. Adnan Oktar, Mr. Harun Yahya pays $7 million American dollars or 5 million British pounds to anybody who brings a single transitional form. One, and that was in world media, everywhere. All over the world, people knows about that. Since 4 years. That was in New York Times, in BBC, and many French media everywhere. So, Mr. Adnan Oktar, of course, nobody brings transitional form to get this money means there are no transitional forms. And he changed his offer. A year ago, he said, okay, I still pay the same money. It is ready in the luggage. If you bring money, you will get the money in cash immediately. So you don't have to bring the transitional form, you don't have to bring the fossil itself, but if you even bring the picture of a fossil, I will still pay the same money. But nobody has appeared yet. You know why? Because there are no transitional forms. And according to Darwinism, there should be, supposed to be, trillions, billions of them, these transitional forms. So they cannot even bring a single transitional forms, means Darwinism is a nonsense, there is no evolution. Allah did not create through evolution, and Allah created all of a sudden, because species appear separately, abruptly, complete, and perfectly formed. That is creation by Allah, of course. And Darwin, he knew that there are no transitional forms. Although he is the founder of the evolution, Darwinism, he knew there are no transitional forms. And he admitted this in his book, Origin of Species. He said, why if species have descended from other species by insensibly fine gradations, do we not everywhere see innumerable transitional forms? He says, if evolution be a fact, why don't we have any transitional forms? Because there are no transitional forms. Why is not all nature in confusion instead of the species being, as we see them, well defined? So he knew species, living things, are created by Allah. But the reason why he defended, although there are no evidences, to keep atheism alive. Darwin knows better than anybody else that Darwinism is a nonsense. And this is Niles Eldredge. He's one of the most prominent Darwinist fossil scientists, paleontologists of today, from United States. Niles Eldredge said, the record, fossil, this is talking about the fossil record jumps. That means this is one species, there is this species, but there is nothing in between. It jumps. Fossil record jumps from species to other species. There are no transitions. That means no evolution. And he goes on. And all the evidence, all the fossils shows that the record is real. It is a fact, he says. The gaps we see reflect real events in life's history, not the artifact of a poor fossil record. So he says we have more than enough fossils, but the record jumps from species to species. There is no evolution. Who says that? One of the most prominent Darwinist fossil scientists of the world. So the Cambrian Age. This name may not be familiar to you. Cambrian Age is the oldest geological layer where we have the visible forms of living things. It's called Cambrian Age. It is between 525 and 543 million years. About 540 million years ago. The Cambrian Age, the living things, according to the body structure, it's called phylums, but based on the body structure, 50 different animal groups appear all of a sudden and fully formed. And I will show you the fossil evidence. This is the expectation of the evolutionists. According to evolution, there's supposed to be a family tree, they say, Darwinists say that. First, a single cell will emerge by chance, and the single cell diversify into millions of different species, like a tree, they say. But this is the real fossil evidence. This line represents the Cambrian period, 540 million years ago. This line represents the Cambrian period, 540 million years old. There were only 3 animal groups before that period, before 540 million years, like sponges, worms, poriferans, cnidarians. But after 540 million years, after starting at the Cambrian period, 50 different animal groups, there were only 3 of them, 50 of them appears all of a sudden, such as the mollusks, the crustaceans, the worms, the snails, trilobites. They appear all at once without having any ancestors. And in fact, decrease with time up to the 35. We have only 35 basic animal groups today based on body structure. So you see how different the real fossil evidence is from the expectations of Darwinism. This fossil fact, this fossil evidence, scientific fact, destroys Darwinism completely. Because it is called even Cambrian explosion, even by the evolutionists, explosively, all of a sudden, sudden appearance of all phyla. Phyla means basic animal groups, appeared all of a sudden, sudden appearance. No ancestral forms, they have no ancestors. And stunning complexity, that means they have very complex systems at the emergence, such as eyes, for example, such as gills, such as blood circulation. And they appear all of a sudden and fully formed, means, of course, creation by Allah, no evolution. And Allah says in the Quran, I seek refuge in Allah from accursed Satan, the originator of the heavens and earth. Allah originated, created the heavens and earth, entire universe out of nothingness, Allah says. And this is a confirmed fact with the Big Bang Theory. When He decides on something, He just says to it, be, and it is. Whenever Allah decides to create something, Allah says, be, and there it is. Of course, Allah does not make any decisions or plans. Allah is beyond any of these. It is for human beings. But just to make you understand, we use these words. But Allah says, Allah creates anything, whenever He wills, however He wills, inshallah. He has infinite power, wisdom, and artistry and might. Now, the myth called transition from water to land. Evolutionists claim the sea animals, the fish, decided to step under the land, and they transformed over millions of years into land animals. These are from evolutionist textbooks that you see over here. But everybody knows, even the children know. If you take out the fish out of the water, they will die in few minutes. You can try this trillions of times, over millions of years. They will always die. They will never transform to other species, such as, for example, land animals, because they have completely different systems. Let's make a comparison. This is a fish and this is a land animal, a reptile. Fish have fins, and in order to be a land animal, those should turn into feet to be that land animal. Fish breathe by their gills, those should turn into lung. Weight-carrying systems of fishes adapted to live in water, this should be adapted to live on land. And the metabolisms of fish are adapted to live in water, this should be adapted to live on land. And all these changes must occur at the same time, in the same animal, at the same moment. Of course, this is impossible. Even the Darwinists, they don't claim that the fish all of a sudden, in 1 second, transformed into a land animal. They say over millions of years. However, this is impossible. Let me explain you what that means. For example, fish have gills, land animals have lungs. So according to Darwinism, this gill should transform randomly, by random changes, by blind chance, over millions of years into a lung. But they are completely different organs, having completely different genetic systems, genetic information, controlled by thousands of different proteins and genes. So if you change the gill a little bit, make little changes, the gill will be dysfunctional. Since this fish doesn't have a lung either, it will die. So, and we have the fossil record, we see fish is created as fish, and land animals as land animals. There is nothing in between. There cannot be anything in between. Logically and genetically and scientifically, it is impossible. So Allah created fish as fish and land animals as land animals. There is nothing in between, no evolution. Let's see what evolutionists say about the origin of birds. Now birds they show perfect aerodynamic skills. They have wings, they have feathers, they have very different metabolisms, high metabolisms compared to other land animals, and they have completely different respiratory tract and hollow bones. Because we have, for example, solid bones, but they have hollow bones, otherwise they couldn't fly. Everything in birds is different than the land animals. And they have perfect aerodynamic structures.